So today we had yet another day of Tesla stock falling downwards, which, by the way, guys, if you guys have been following the channel, I put out a ton of videos recently talking about how I'm not really too keen about Tesla stock, especially at these current levels. In fact, last Friday, I put out a video talking about how even in my long-term investing account, I'm not optimistic about Tesla. And let me tell you, that video ruffled a lot of feathers, as there was a lot of individuals in the comment section saying, "You're wrong, this is the best time to buy Tesla." Yet here we are again having another day of Tesla falling downwards. Now I just want to clarify something, because in that video I mentioned that I wanted to get an update on the fundamentals, meaning that we're having the earnings on the 24th for Tesla, and I want to wait until the 24th so I could go ahead and look at the actual fundamentals, the financial health of the company, and also hear the forward guidance. I like to invest not only just looking at the technicals, but also looking at the macroeconomic environment and of course the fundamentals, because at the end of the day I like to look at the balance sheets, the income statements, the cash flow statements. Of course, I like looking at all that, and I get it. A lot of people invest by simply investing in companies that they like. I know a lot of people, they see, oh, I like iPhones and Apple's cool, so I'm gonna put my money in Apple. And I think that's great if you're kind of just trying to get yourself into investing long term, but I don't just buy into companies simply because I'm like, oh, well, I like the company. I like to look at what the company is actually doing and then kind of perform an analysis saying, well, should I put a lump sum of capital at these areas? And I know there were some comments of individuals saying, well, I'm investing in Tesla for the next 20 years, so it really doesn't matter. And of course, there's so many different schools of philosophies when it comes to even long-term investing. Again, I agree that it's not about timing the market when it comes to investing, it's about time in the market. And so I 100% agree with that, but that doesn't mean that just because Tesla had a few red days, that it's absolutely the best discount for Tesla. In fact, I think that there's still some more pain for Tesla, and I'm gonna gauge that and maybe reevaluate that, of course, after I get more data of the fundamentals, because if we have bad earnings, which I want to wait for, well, that could mean that there's more selling pressure for Tesla. And so yeah, you could go ahead and buy in at every single dip and dollar cost average equally every month. That's one school of thoughts. Of course, that's fine if you do that, but I like to invest by putting a lump sum in and waiting for that opportunity where there's confirmation of an uptrend and things are looking great for the company. And again, there's research papers that kind of debate the two different schools of thoughts, although like you'll see that lump sums in at specific times actually does better. But again, to each your own, and if you're investing, then that's great, as long as you're not investing in like meme coins or meme stocks, right? But also, I just want to kind of mention, if you go back to look at the comments of a lot of videos, or even this video, right? One thing that I don't think a lot of people know, and I kind of just want to mention this because I don't think a lot of people know this unless they're uploading videos on YouTube, but a lot of comments that you guys see, or pretty much the comments that you guys see, aren't all the comments on the video. In fact, YouTube actually stifles a ton of comments, specifically because if there's any like strong language, and it doesn't mean that it's negative. I mean, someone could say, Justin, your videos are effing great, and YouTube will, of course, kind of block that comment. And so that's why oftentimes you guys don't see all the comments, but of course on the back end, I see all the comments and I could approve them if I want. But I just want to provide that friendly reminder that YouTube definitely stifles a lot of the comments and even the content, right? Because that's why I'm very careful with what I say on YouTube. I try to, you guys often see me kind of dancing around different topics if it's like kind of political. For example, if I ever wanted to mention the guy's name who rhymes with Meffrey Slepstein, I'm not gonna say his actual name, because then YouTube's gonna restrict the video, demonetize it, only keep it to 18 years old and up, and all the stuff that kind of stifles the video. And so that's why I just wanted to provide a friendly reminder that if you are gonna comment, please make sure that you refrain from using anything that you think YouTube would kind of block. And if you have to think about it, then yeah, YouTube is most likely going to block it. But going back on tangent, I want to go ahead and talk about what are my thoughts for Tesla, and also just highlight some recent news that we got for Tesla. For example, today we had Barron's have this article saying that Tesla bulls are cutting stock target and there are too many EVs. And if you parse through the article, it says that Morgan Stanley analyst Adam Jones cut his price target on Tesla stock to $300 $345 per share from $380, but kept his buy rating. It also goes on to say that the EV market is oversupplied, and is quoting him saying that global EV momentum is stalling. And he also says that he anticipates Tesla's 2024 outlook to be cautious on volume and profitability. And so if you're wondering, well, why did the S&P 500 break into new all-time highs? Well, Tesla actually fell down quite a bit, and it's continuing to fall down. And the reason is because Adam Jones is actually one of the individuals, one of the analysts who a while back was very bullish on Tesla, saying, hey, Tesla, we believe, is 380 because it's not just a car company, it's an AI company, it's a robotics company. And so that pushed Tesla stock upwards when he came out with that report. However, hearing him now downgrade Tesla, well, that puts a lot of kind of skepticism on, well, why are you downgrading Tesla? And then hearing the ideas, oh, okay, well, EV, globally, or EVs globally are stalling. Well, that's kind of concerning, especially if you're, investing or trading into Tesla. And so that's something that definitely contributed to the price action falling downwards. Now, from a macroeconomic perspective, today we got an update on the leading economic index. Now, this report sent out a bit of a mixed signal, because from one perspective, it's still saying, hey, well, recession is still very likely, especially as it's still going downwards. But from an optimistic perspective, it's actually slightly higher than the lowest point it's been during the pandemic. And so it's kind of like putting this idea that, yeah, a recession is probably likely, but there's also probably a floor, and so it won't be a deep, bloody recession like many are expecting. And so that's something that was pretty interesting. Now, of course, for those within the Push Your Profit private group, where you have, access to my daily briefings, and one of my briefings, I highlighted how I think things are going to be shifting as we go into February and February and March. But of course, I want to leave that exclusively for those within the Push Your Profit private group, as I like to highlight those trade ideas and my commentary in the market is exclusively for those within the group. But just know that a lot of interesting things are about to happen within the next 2 weeks, especially as we have a lot of data points rolling out. We still have the FOMC decision coming out later on towards the end of the month, which of course we know that it's most likely that the Federal Reserve is going to pause. But again, we want to hear that kind of the forward guidance for what they think for March, which I talked a little bit more in details with those within the Push and Profit private group. But of course, we also get an update on the GDP numbers, and then we also get an update on inflation, right? Because we had on one end CPI come in on the opposite end of the PPI, which is the Producer Price Index. And so they're kind of conflicting. And so the PCE report, the Personal Consumption Expenditure Report, is something that we're going to want to see, because that's going to give us a clearer picture on inflation, and we know that that's the preferred barometer that the Federal Reserve actually likes to look at. And so we have a lot coming out that's going to be shifting the dynamics of the current markets. But with that said, I want to go ahead and hop into my laptop and take a deeper look at Tesla from a technical perspective, as well as just cover a few other things as well. But before we do so, just a friendly reminder that if you have not done so already, consider tapping that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future video. I often cover Tesla stock as well as the broader economy and the overall market, so definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on those future videos. And also, while you're at it, consider checking out the links in the description below, because one link is for a link to join the Push and Profit private group, but there's also a link for my free weekly market post insights, which of course is free. I mean, why wouldn't you join? Every single week I send out an email talking about what are some things that we should be aware about going into the market. So definitely check out the links in the description below. And with that said, let's go ahead and hop into my laptop. Alrighty, so we are officially in my laptop taking a look at Tesla stock, and I wanted to start off from a weekly time frame just to kind of recap what we saw recently. For example, in the past, we saw Tesla get rejected from this descending trend line, and I mentioned a copious amounts of times on this channel that this is a very prominent downward trend line, as we've seen Tesla stock get rejected from it a ton of different times. I mean, it's been over 3 years of Tesla pretty much not breaking the highs that we saw back in 2021 and continuously get rejected. And that's not to say that Tesla won't
ever break this descending trend line. But once we kind of get close to it, we tend to see a lot of selling pressure until we have that momentum that breaks us out of it. And so, a couple of weeks ago, after, Tesla got rejected, another area of concern that I mentioned was around right over here. And I believe that was on January 9th-ish, around that time. Not exactly sure which video I mentioned it, but I said we have this volume shelf, and this is the volume profile. I said if Tesla falls below this volume shelf, well, that's going to be a issue, because if we go into this volume pocket and there's, more selling pressure, well, that's going to amplify the selling pressure. Why? Because this bar over here, this little volume relative to price. And so if you go ahead and zoom out, and again, this is going to move depending on how much of the price action that you capture, right? If you look at a different time frame, it's going to, shift a little. But the point is, when you look at it, there's this volume pocket, and we've seen selling pressures. We've gotten a lot of bad catalysts for Tesla, and so you mix in bad catalysts for Tesla, you mix in this volume pocket, it's just bad news for Tesla. That's why Tesla's been pretty much falling downwards. And so one area that we're looking at is this point of control area where there's a lot of volume relative to price, and in the past that's been a support last time, and then in the past it's also been a resistance. And so we're going to want to see if Tesla holds up around over here, that 190 area. But of course, if it breaks down below, well, then that's a bit concerning, because then we enter into another volume pocket all the way down here, and we also have this gap fill around over here around this 140 area. And the thing that's a bit scary with Tesla is we've seen Tesla fall down straight in the past, but after, a bad earnings. For example, we saw Tesla had earnings, did okay for a bit, then continued falling down. We saw last time Tesla had earnings, this was, I believe, the Q2 of 2023, pretty much fell down. But we've seen recently Tesla fall straight down before the earnings. So it really just takes one bad earnings call, one bad earnings report, maybe Elon Musk crying on the phone again, anything like that, and that could just have us tear down and go to those areas. Now, if you're trading Tesla, great. You'll have a great opportunity to short it. If you're investing in the long term, also great, if you're still bullish on Tesla. Because if you're still bullish on Tesla, it falls down to here and it holds up, it fills this gap and starts reversing, great. You could go ahead and have an opportunity to finally scoop up some more shares. And so that's going to be something I'm going to watch. I'm going to want to watch this 190 area, and of course, I'll see what ends up happening with the earnings. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball. I know that's a joke on this channel, but at the end of the day, I still have to look at the incoming data. Now, recently we saw something pretty interesting take place with the markets. I often say you want to look at the 10-year Treasury yields, as it's kind of like it holds this inverse relationship with stocks. When the 10-year Treasury yields are high, typically we see stocks go down. When the 10-year Treasury yields are down, we see stocks pretty much go up, and that's pretty much what we saw back in October. I said October was the bottoming of the markets, and indeed it was, as November, December, pretty much markets rallied up. But we saw something interesting where recently the S&P 500 has been making new highs despite the 10-year Treasury kind of pushing upwards. And so just to highlight that, let's go ahead and look at SPY over here. And today, just alone, we made some new highs, all-time highs, despite the 10-year Treasury yield kind of still up there. Now, I want to clarify that this is just another indicator. It's not black and white saying, oh, well, when this goes up, then, okay, stocks down. When this goes down, stocks up, right? I wish it was as black and white as that, right? But at the end of the day, it's just an indicator that we want to use in confluence with all the other indicators, right? Just like technical analysis. I know some people, they look at the RSI, or they look at this or that, or maybe even fundamental analysis. There's nothing that could tell you what is the best price to buy a stock, right? It just tells you if something's overvalued and undervalued, but that doesn't mean just because something is undervalued that it has to go upwards. And there's several reasons for that. And that's because, and this is something that a lot of people get mixed up, regardless what type of analysis you're doing. You're looking at alternative data, fundamental, technical, it does not matter, right? Because at the end of the day, price action depends on capital flowing in and flowing out. And so a good example of this is Baba, right? Baba, I personally think, which is a Chinese company, has some pretty decent earnings. If you look at Baba fundamentally, it's a great company. However, it's still pretty low even after the pandemic. And there's definitely a reason for that. And that's obviously because it's a Chinese company. And although fundamentally it looks great, there's a lot of skepticism about, or just, concerns of putting your capital in Chinese companies, as it is still a communist company, and one day they could say, okay, we want to make this rule and this changes everything. And so that's kind of scary, right, for a lot of investors. There's a lot of great Chinese companies where fundamentally the numbers look good, but you kind of don't trust China. And so that's kind of like this picture I want to point out, that even if the fundamentals and technicals or the 10-year treasury kind of depicts one thing, we could see something else happening, because again, it's just a signal, it's an indicator. It may say it's undervalued, but things can still go down, and that's something that a lot of people don't get. For example, some people may look at Nvidia, another stock that we had a great trade on. I'm no longer in it, but we had a great trade. It's reaching all-time highs, and for a while, even back over here, people were saying, "Oh, Nvidia's overvalued. It's not going to go up." Just because something is overvalued doesn't mean it can't continue going up. Think about 2021. I mean, that's the best time, where a good prime example of so many things that did not deserve to go up high continue going up. But going back on tangent, definitely something that we're going to want to look out for Tesla just in a couple of days. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts for Tesla and the earnings? Maybe if you guys have any predictions, or what are you doing for Tesla? If we look at the economic calendar, today we had the U.S. leading economic indicator. Tomorrow there's nothing, so it's a bit of a dry day. Wednesday we have a couple of data points coming out, but really the big movement is going to come Thursday with the Q4 GDP numbers coming out, initial jobless claims, new home sales. That's more for real estate. But then we also get the PCE numbers on Friday. So towards the later end of the week is when we get a lot of incoming economic data. And so it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road, a lot of volatility definitely coming, especially with Tesla's earnings, Q4 GDP numbers, and then PCE. And so it's definitely a bumpy road, but definitely something I'm excited to trade. I haven't traded Tesla in quite a bit. I've been trading a lot of different other names that I've been highlighting within the Push and Profit private group. But I'm also, as a Tesla investor, because I trade and invest, optimistic. I'm really hoping that we do get something for Tesla, because again, yeah, I would like Tesla to get lower to scoop up more shares. But if we get good news and I could buy Tesla, in the next few days, I'll definitely be excited. I think a lot of people get confused thinking that, oh, I talk bad about Tesla, I'm a Tesla bear, I wanted to crash. No, not necessarily. I just want to go ahead and get good value for the capital I'm investing in the company. But with that said, you guys let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts for Tesla? And before you guys go, make sure to check out this next video right over here, and I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care, guys.